Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Nana for Tangle Time Arts, and today we're taking a look at tile number 6 of the Fragment of Your Imagination challenge, which was a January challenge. But I am just finishing it up now, and that is a-okay. So for tile 7, we are going to be looking at days 25 through 28. And for the square fragment, we have S9 by Stephanie Jennifer, which is this interesting pattern here. And then in our circle or the round fragment, we have A24 from the primer. And that's this cool, kind of reminds me of a web, a spider web, or maybe a pinwheel. And in the triangle fragment, we have Serenity. And in the seed or rice fragment, we are going to squeeze in Mysealiam. Mycelium. I think that's how you pronounce that. All right. You can still download the handout, the PDF from 7 Forests, 5 Rivers, and I'll put that in the description. For this project, you will need, I am using a black pen, a Micron 01, because it's nice and thin. And I've got a number 2 pencil and a tortillon. You can use from the handout, you can just print out this tile. It's about the size of an Apprentice tile. Or if you were following along from before, we did transfer that onto an original size tile, it's a lot smaller to work with. All right, so let's start with fragment S9 in our square areas here. And I'm going to take my black pen and let's get started. So for this one, I like to start with the curved stroke. I start at the top of each square. And then at the bottom of each square is another curved stroke, which is the mirror opposite of the original ones that we did. All right, once we have that in, you're going to visualize a line, a diagonal line from the upper left to the bottom right of one of the squares. You can draw that in if you'd like, but I'm just going to kind of incorporate that line into a teardrop or a petal shape. And then I'm going to aura that shape a couple of times, always coming back to the center point there. And then I'm going to aura on the right side as well. There we go. And we could do the same direction for each of these squares, but I think I'd like to switch it up a little bit, and I'd like to do the mirror image of this one. So instead of going diagonally this way, I'm going to go diagonally this way. So I'm going to rotate my tile a little bit so it's more comfortable for me. And I'm going to put in my first petal or teardrop shape. And then I'm going to aura that. And I'm going to aura on the other side of that petal shape. Like that. And then I'm going to rotate my tile. And I'm going to do the diagonal like we did the first time. The bottom square fragments are a little thinner, so we'll do the best we can. And then I'm going to mirror that and put in my diagonal going up to the right. So there we have, the result is kind of a nice flower like arrangement here. And then I'm going to take my black pen and I'm going to ink in these areas here. Remember to rotate so that you're comfortable. I think I'll just keep going down this side here and fill in these areas. And you may find that you're filling in these areas faster than I am or slower than I am. And that's fine. There's no pressure to keep up with me. You can always pause and work on it. And I kind of like to fill in smaller areas first and then go back and get the slightly larger areas. And rotating again. All right. And that is S9. Uh, I actually would like to add a little extra detail to it, and this is optional, but this is S9. I like to go back in and in my original petals, I like to add some orbs. And then I also ink in these areas here. I just think it's a nice detail to add, but it's optional and you don't have to if you don't feel like it. But I'm going to go ahead and do that for each of the original petals. And my orbs are sort of round. They're not perfect. Each orb is an individual, just like we all are. Right. Over to here. All right, so we have this area done. And now we're going to do the same over here. We're just going to repeat what we did and start with the curves. And then mirror that. And then put in a diagonal petal shape up, going up to the left. Or that shape. Then we're going to mirror that. So it's kind of the flip side. So we're putting in our petal shape to the upper right. And then we're going to aura that. And I'm not really counting how many auras I put in. I just try to fit in as many as I can. Rotate and repeat. Petal shape to the upper left. And auras. And I think we can only fit in about 2 auras in there. And then one last one, petal shape to the upper right. And this is a pretty thin area, so only 2. Okay, and we're back to where we started. And we're going to fill in these areas here. Inking them in really makes the tangles stand out. And you can fill them in any order that you'd like. You don't have to do each one at the same time that I'm doing it. You could go clockwise if you'd like. Let's see. Feel like I need to maybe focus a little better. There we go. Yeah, that's better. And then we've got the right side left. Okay, and then at this point you could see the difference between this is the S9, and then I'm going to add the orbs like I did over here. All right. So in your original tear shapes or petal shapes, I'm just putting in some orbs or perfs, or if you like to call them tipple. It's a shape that I use a lot. Rotate. And again, these orbs are optional. If you would rather not add them, then just skip this part. And one more. All right. So that looks pretty cool. Actually, I like it. We're going to move on to our circle fragments, the little, which kind of reminds me of a web or a pinwheel, and that's the A24 from the primer, the Zentangle primer. And it's pretty simple, actually. I like to start with it's like a line, kind of dividing it, a circle in half. And then I'm going to put in an X going through the center there. So it's like dividing up almost like a pie into 6 pieces. And then between each of the lines, we're just adding a curve like that. And for each of the lines, we kind of aura that a little bit, or in this case, it's more like adding a little bit of weight. It just depends on how you interpret that. So we're just adding some emphasis kind of at the end with the point. And then we pull that into the center like that. And we're just doing that for each circle. And I'm kind of putting them in all in a row, but you could rotate your lines if you would like to do that a little bit so that they're all different. But I'm kind of keeping them all oriented the same way. And if it's easier for you, you can start with the curves. For me, it's just easier to start with the lines that are dividing the circle. And I think I'm just gonna put in all of my lines and curves and then go back and add the weighted part. Let's switch to the opposite side. And as you can see, your little slices of pie don't all have to be this exactly the same size. They're going to be a little bit different. There's going to be some variation. And then we're at our largest one. That. Okay, now we can add a little bit of weight to each of these. This fragment is super easy. Let's see. And for me, actually, when I add the weight, it's not so much a straight line as a little bit of a curve. So I start a little bit away from the point and then curve it in to the center. All right, so I'm gonna switch to the other side. And we're at our largest circle here. Again, you can fill these in any order that you'd like. I just like to work sometimes from the smallest one to the largest one. All right, got that filled in. Moving on to our triangle shapes. I'm going to rotate my tile this way because I like to work in these three triangle shapes to keep it consistent with our previous tiles. But you might choose to work in these two triangle shapes or in all of them. So for day 27, the fragment is Serenity, which includes little seed shapes, actually, which is kind of cool. All right. So we're going to put in a seed shape, not all the way to the top, but a little over halfway. And then we're going to add a seed shape on each side. Like that. And then we're going to aura around it. And you can add a little detail there. Just like that. And then let's go over to this triangle. So I'm going to add a seed shape here. And then one on each side. These are small spaces, so it's a little bit of a challenge. And then let's add another one over here. Like that. Then I think for a little added interest, I'm going to add some tiny orbs to the center seed shape. And that's optional, you don't have to. But I think it's kind of cute. Sometimes I like to play with these fragments and kind of make them my own. So I added some orbs in the middle, the center seed shapes. And then I think because we have this line going like that, I think I'd actually like to add some more. It just adds a nice detail to it. And then I think for consistency, I'm going to aura on the bottom half of these as well. And again, this this is optional. This is kind of where one's individual creativity comes in. And then I'm going to continue these lines rather than doing that with shading. I think it just adds some drama to that fragment. All right. All we have left is our seed fragment, and which was inspired by Mycelium. And that starts off with a simple, it's a curved shape like that. It's got a little bit of a, almost like sort of like an S shape, but a backward, but kind of flipped over. Not too curvy though. Once you get that in kind of in the center, you are going to, the way I do it is to draw a line, starting on the left. I draw a line and then I aura that line. And ink that in. But it's kind of like what we did up here with the A24. It's kind of like adding weight because you're whiter at the top and thinner at the bottom. And these lines can have a little bit of a curve in them if you'd like. And I'm going to fit another one in here. And then I'm going to rotate this around because it's easier for me to work with. And I like to mirror those. So I had one on this side, and so I'm going to start off of that one. So it kind of looks like they're a continuation of each other. And we have one more. And they all come down to the same point, the tip of the seed shape or the rice shape, however you think of it. And then we have 3 more smaller seed shapes down here. So we'll just do the best we can with our, starting with the kind of like a ribbon in the center, and then adding these stripes or these details. I can only fit 2 in there. All right, let's try the one on the left, which is really, for me, this one's very thin. So I'm only going to put in one type of stripe. And then on the right side, same thing. Maybe I can fit 2 in here. Yeah, just barely. All right. So now we have all of our inking finished. And I'm going to put the cap on my pen and pick up my number 2 pencil here. And for starting with our square fragments, I'm just going to add some graphite in the center here. I'm not going to do much with this one, so I'm just going to put some graphite in the center. Like that. And then for the circle fragments, I'm going to do the same thing with each circle. I'm going to add a little bit to the center of each. And then I think I'm going to actually shade around these instead of inking in those areas, I'm just adding some graphite. You could ink these in if you'd like. And as we've talked about before, there's many different ways that you can shade your tangles, and this is just one of the ways. You can play around with these if you'd like. We could do a little bit of shading on the inside here. And let's see. All right. And then let's see, with our triangle with the Serenity, we can add a little bit of shading on the left side and the right side. And then along the circle. And I'm also going to add a little bit to these empty triangles to keep it consistent with our previous ones. And then for Mysealiam, I'm going to keep it simple and add the graphite to the points. And I think a little bit along, I'm going to call it a ribbon in the center, but just along the bottom. All right, now I'm going to trade my pencil for the tortillon. And I'm going to start just blending out these center ones. I'm working from the center and pushing that out. All right. And then moving on to our circular fragments. I'm working on the outsides right now, kind of just blending out the graphite on the outside of each of the circular areas rather than inking in these areas. And then we had a little bit in the center of each. And then along the inside of the curves. Not a lot, but just a little. All right. And then we'll go to our triangles. And we had graphite on the left and the right, as well as along the circle. And then in the empty triangles as well. And then our seed fragment, we had some along the bottom of the ribbon and then at each point. And then just take a quick look and see if there's anything you missed blending out or that you'd like to blend out further, or this is the point where if you'd like to make your shading darker, you could go in and add more graphite. And this is tile 7. We're going to flip it over now and fill in our details. All right. I like to usually put my name on there and the date, and I can't believe it's the 18th already. I don't know where the time went. And this is 2024, tile number 7. And we had day 25 was S9. And 26 was A24. 27 was Serenity. And 28 is Mysealiam with an M. All right. So that is our 7th tile, tile number 7, if you're doing the mosaic project for a fragment of your imagination. And this challenge was from the 7 Forests, 5 Rivers. So a big shout out to them for putting this all together. We only have one more tile to go. And then we'll also have a demo on putting it all together and finishing it up. So here we are with our tile number 7, and it's coming along pretty well. It's looking pretty cool. And I don't know where I put my other tiles, but we will put these all together and take a look at them after we finish the 8th tile. And thank you for joining me. It's been really fun. My favorite fragment on this tile is probably the S9 by Stephanie Jennifer, although I think the triangle ones are awfully cute too. So I'd be interested to hear what your favorite is. I'll see you for tile 8, and thank you for joining me. And if I haven't said lately, I love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.